Our series, Show and Tell, will take you inside some of the great libraries, both public and private, to explore books and treasures from Jewish history.
One of the most amazing things that I've always been fascinated with is the Cairo Geniza and the work done by Solomon Schechter to retrieve the Geniza. Tell me a little bit about what made the Cairo Geniza unique and what is the find that you have over here.
So the Geniza is absolutely unique. Unique not only for collections in the world, but for Genizas. Because two things set it apart. For reasons we don't know, unlike a common Geniza, the material that was thrown into it was not sent forward for burial. It wasn't a temporary holding place. It wound up being a permanent holding place.
Burial, we bury, to explain, meaning
well,
the stuff that
the
you put
way
in what's
Jewish
sort of
tradition, as you know, preserves sacred materials is by, in some ways, analogizing them to the human body. Right, the same kind of treatment that a person deserves in order to honor them. Sacred text requires the same thing.
But this never got buried, and it's stuck around.
So this never got buried. It resulted in certain indignities. In the late 19th century, before Solomon Schechter got there, the community decided it was time to reconstruct, to renovate the synagogue. And so they took the entire Geniza and just threw it out in the yard. And whatever layering might have been there, and larger documents were thrown together and inevitably became smaller documents into fragments. And whatever layering may have existed before that was totally lost. So it makes this a much larger puzzle.
So what's this piece that we have over here?
But before I do that, this is, as you'll see, a piece of sacred writing. But the other thing that set the Cairo Geniza apart is the fact that the community seems to have believed, this is the best explanation we can come up with, that anything written in Hebrew characters is sacred by virtue of the Hebrew characters. But the community spoke Arabic. They wrote their Arabic using Hebrew characters. And that means that any kind of document that they wrote, it could be a business document in Arabic. It could be a list, literally shopping lists. Lists of books that you might have in your collection, on and on and on. We can create histories from this material, from its hundreds of thousands of pieces that could not be recreated any other way. And this is significant not only for our understanding of the life of Jews in medieval Cairo and beyond, but for the life of Muslims as well, because this is the most complete picture we have of what it meant to live in Cairo during the 11th, 12th, 13th century. Now, amongst the materials, of course, were sacred materials, but of a very particular sort. So let me show you this. It's a stunning piece, as you'll see in a moment. Poor handwriting.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it out. This wasn't as easy as some of the other things that I've seen. I can't make out a word
because
here.
Someone's writing quickly, and they happen to be a doctor. Right, and we know that doctors don't have such great handwriting, right?
Yes, that is true. Okay. Grew up in the home of one.
Interestingly, it actually mismarks the number of the chapter. Right? You can see here it says Perek Shnemasar. Turns out to be chapter 22. All right, chapter 22 of the Mishneh Torah's section dealing Hilchot Malveh Velova.
Wow, this is an original.
And this is Maimonides' original composition. This is actually in Maimonides' handwriting, right? This is the Rambam, right? And you can see the Rambam writing his law and then reevaluating its formulation.
Crossing things out,
filling in between the lines. We've got it right here on both sides. You can see that later on the pages were reused because materials for writing were very, very expensive. Right? But if you were to take this out and compare it to a printed Rambam, you would find that the formulation is very, very close, which is quite remarkable because, of course, manuscripts change from one copy to the other. If things are preserved close, right, there'll always be changes, but if they're preserved in a way that's close to the original writing, that shows that the text is considered to be very sacred.
And this is the handwriting.
This is the actual handwriting of Rambam. And why is it in the Geniza? Why is it waste? We have to assume that after it was formulated, manuscripts were created of the Mishneh Torah, you no longer needed the original copy Right?
22nd chapter of Hilchos Malva Velova.
Exactly right. Now, how do we know that it's his handwriting? Right? The answer here is because here and in the collection in Cambridge, but this is one clear example, we have got unmistakably Maimonides' signature. Right? The letter here, this is a letter, was not written by Rambam, it was written by his scribe, Mevorach ben Natan, but you can see at the end the chief executive officer of the Cairo Jewish community signs his name. Multiple copies would have been made by this. It was written in 1170.
Is this...
Yeah, you can see. Moshe is kind of blotted out, right? I mean, it's, right, but Maimon...
And that the Rambam signed at the bottom?
That is his own signature. That's right.
And somebody else copied the top, and then the Rambam...
And this is a letter which was actually directed to various Jewish communities in the nearby Near East for their payment of funds that had been pledged for the redemption of captives. A couple of years before this, captives had been taken by the Crusader community nearby in Egypt, and this is Pidyon Shvuyim, right? They needed to be released, and the only way they were going to be released is if the money that was demanded was paid, and Maimonides here steps up and says, we're going to pay our pledges, and you've got to do the same in order to perform this mitzvah.
Do you have any sense of how much original writing from the Rambam exists outside of this library, what we're looking at now?
Well, we preserve materials in a variety of volumes, right? Some of which you can see over there. All of that is material related to the Rambam and his family.
It says Maimonides family, Geniza fragments.
Right, exactly. So that is the bulk of our material, but there's considerable quantity of material in Cambridge as well.
It's like kind of really moving to have been introduced to the Rambam, obviously in a printed Mishneh Torah, and to see it, the very handwriting, that's pretty emotional. It's pretty powerful.